everyone, and welcome to our very first live stream. My name is Diana Santos. I am the owner and lead instructor of Setwork University, and we're delighted you're able to join us today. We are going to be doing these live streams just to try to provide a little bit more information for everyone, learning opportunities. We're hoping to do some other events where we will be actually hosting several of our instructors and outside speakers to have some conversations. It's just a way to really get, engage with everyone. So this is our very first live stream, so hopefully everything behaves itself technology-wise. So we are indeed streaming this on several different locations today. We are streaming this on our Setwork University Facebook page. We are streaming it also on our Instagram page as well as our YouTube channel. We will be recording this live stream and it'll be posted in all those locations as well as our Friends of Setwork University Facebook group. So you'll be able to view all of that later. So if you have to duck out, I have to feed dogs. I have things to do. Don't worry about it. You'll be able to view that recording as well. But the whole point of this live stream today is really just to evaluate some training videos. And these are going to be videos of my little guy, which you can see here, my Aussie. He's a smooth fox terrier. And I just wanted to put together some videos of what we're doing in our own training. He is currently searching for primary, so that is food and toys. And just so that we may be able to look at those videos and see what does he look like when he is tackling a search? What is he doing? What's the different parts of his body? What are they doing? And what may be able to tell from what we look at from the videos? Can we tell maybe the type of hide that he's tackling? Is it an elevated hide? Is it a corner hide? Is it a ground hide? Is it an inaccessible hide? Can we tell maybe where the hide is located based upon what he looks like? So that's basically what we're going to be doing today. And we're only going to be looking at videos from him because I want there to be a little bit of consistency. And basically what I'm hoping that you guys can take away from this is maybe some setups you want to do with your own dogs. Again, they could be hunting for anything. They could be hunting for target odors, and you could do the same types of setups where you're basically setting up a search area and you're filming it. And then you're saying, okay, what does my dog look like? And try to see what types of things can we glean from that. And understand that this is going to be a continual process. I have been training as an instructor for over 10 years now, and I am very much still learning. So our dogs are the best teachers. And once you just start to get a handle on reading one dog, then maybe you get another dog or you're working with a new dog and suddenly you have to learn things all over again. But I do want this live stream to be participatory. So by all means, if you are joining us live, feel free to write any questions or comments you have inside the comments section. Again, that could be on our Facebook group, it could be on our Instagram page, or it can be on our YouTube channel. I can see those comments on my end, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So what we're going to be doing is just talk about some things first, then we'll look at some videos, and then we'll wrap up with some questions at the end. So to start off with, I just really want to quickly mention that we have some really impressive resources available for you at Setwork University. We are extraordinarily fortunate to partner with some extraordinarily talented instructors, and they provide a variety of different presentations for us. And these in particular, I think would really help when we're talking about trying to understand what our dog looks like, what it is that they may be doing when they're actually tackling a search. So I'm just really quickly going to go through these. Michele Ellertson very recently put together her All About Brackets webinar. And basically what that means is what the dog looks like when they're bracketing an actual odor plume. This is superb. If you haven't taken a webinar with Michele before, you should. She's very, very good at what she does. And there's lots of video examples inside this webinar. Very, very good. Tony Gravley is absolutely amazing. Everyone loves his presentations. He's extraordinarily experienced. He's very good at what he does. We're talking about trying to read dogs. The two webinars I would definitely recommend you guys check out are his Elevated Hides webinar and his Inaccessible Hides webinar. Very, very good. Also, Dana Zinn, cannot say enough good things about her. She and Sue Sternberg recently have just released a book, the Dog Driven Search book. Highly recommend that as well. But she is a very good presenter. She's an excellent instructor. We've been fortunate to host her for several webinars. We're hoping to nail her down for another one soon. But for this topic, I would definitely encourage you to check out the webinar that she did specifically about interior searches. Because what she does is she basically breaks down visualizing exercises that we may be able to do on our own to try to have a better idea of what's happening in that space, right? What is odor actually doing? And what are our dogs doing when they're tackling that? What do they look like? So really recommend that as well. Michael McManus put together a presentation for us about this very thing of being able to read our dogs, and that how many of us probably can read our dogs pretty well outside of other contexts of scent work. And then we just kind of like lose all those skills when we put it in the context of scent work, which is really interesting. So I really encourage you to check that out as well. Again, Michael is superb. We're looking to get him and his wife, Natalie, to present some more presentations for us this year. So definitely stay tuned for that. Sue Sternberg recently did a webinar for us, all talking about how we may be able to tell the difference of when our dog is potentially working odor or if they are actually getting ready to potty, which for anyone who particularly has a dog who likes to mark, is a good thing for us to be able to tell the difference. And recognizing that our dogs may multitask, right? They may come up to some dog odor and be like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to go back to finding my hide. And finally, Holly Bushard put together some really great webinars for us. One in particular, I strongly encourage everyone to check out, where she actually broke down the variety of different groups. If we were to break down like the AKC classification of breeds, working group, sporting group, non-sporting group, and in very general terms, what those dogs, what they may need for training, how they may tackle searches, what we may want to consider for those. And she has lots of video examples. So again, this is just a sampling, but I wanted to mention these because they're very, very good. So if you're trying to have an idea of how you can better read what's going on with your dog, how you may be able to set up certain types of training, have a better understanding of what's going on, strongly recommend all of these. So just very quickly, I'm just going to stick a link inside the chat on my end where you may be able to find those. And those are just basically our webinars. So you'll be able to find that on our webinar page. But I like to start at the beginning of whatever I'm doing. So let's all make certain that we're on the same page as far as how this whole odor thing works, right? It doesn't matter what your dog is hunting for. They could be hunting for primary, food or toys. They could be hunting for target odor hides, essential oils like birch, anise, or clove, or they could be hunting for a scented article, something you've scented yourself. But basically, what happens is if we were to place a hide out within a space, and then we're going to say for our purposes for this discussion, that the wind is going towards the dog, right? What's going to be happening is that over time, odor molecules are going to be emitting from that hide. And it's going to look something like this. It's not going to be as clean as this. This is just a visual representation to help this make more sense. But basically it's creating this odor plume that the dog then has to work to try to figure out how to get back to source. I'm hoping that you can see with this very rough drawing that there are a lot more odor molecules and more concentration closer to the hide. And that the further away from the hide it gets, the more it disperses and the wider it gets. So that means that there's fewer molecules further away. Why does any of that matter? Well, the dog is actually going to use that information to figure out where the hide is. They do something called they find less to find more. Like, what does that mean? Basically, if you were to look at the little yellow dots here, those are the edges of your actual odor plume. The dog is going to actually work their way out to an edge and be like, okay, I've reached the edge of that. That's now information for me to turn around and work back into the plume, to get back into more molecules till I find another edge. And they go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until they get all the way to source. So this is the way that our dogs, again, in a very rough and dirty way of explaining this, are able to figure out their hides, right? This is important for us to recognize because we may actually see our dogs do this inside their searches, and it may be a very big kind of movement, like what we see here, where their whole body is kind of going back and forth in this zigzag motion. But it could also be with just their head. Their head may just go back and forth like this. Very, very slight. And that's important for us to keep in mind. It's also a good thing to keep in mind that their head may be doing this, but their feet are doing something different. Because their nose is telling them we have to follow the molecules in this direction, but their feet may have been going in an opposite direction. So keeping all of this stuff in mind is really helpful so that when we are reviewing our videos, and if you aren't already, definitely video your searches. It makes a huge difference. This can make a little bit more sense about what it is that we're looking at. So what should we be looking for when we're reviewing those videos, right? Because sometimes we just like, I don't know what I'm looking at, right? Put a hideout, my dog is doing it. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at. Again, this is not exhaustive by any stretch, but this is just to get you thinking. As far as some questions you want to ask yourself, what is your dog doing with their mouth? Is their mouth open or is it closed? And are there certain times in the search that their mouth does appear to be open and then suddenly it does close? Something to keep in mind is when a dog is actually doing really concentrated sniffing, their mouth has to be closed in order to be really efficient in doing that. So that's a good indication for us. Hey, my dog is doing that and I see their rib cage going a mile a minute. they're doing some pretty concentrated sniffing there. Could they potentially be trying to source the hide, right? We also want to think about the positioning of their head. So again, that whole thing we just talked about where they're going to try to find those edges, right? So their head may be going side to side. It may not be in a straight line with the rest of their body. But also, where is it as far as height? Is their head on the ground? Is it neutral with the rest of their back? Or is it high? These are the kinds of things we want to ask ourselves and then try to figure out, what does that mean? When does my dog do these things? Is my dog suddenly going in one direction? It's like something grabbed their face and they go, whoa. The fish hook turn that we all love to see. Those are the kinds of things we want to really keep in the back of our mind. But even subtle little cues, we want to really hone our eyes. We don't need big, bombastic kind of cues. We want to be able to pick up on the little tiny things. We also want to look at their tail. What does my dog do with their tail when they're hunting and in different parts of the hunting sequence? Where's the positioning of their tail? Is it neutral to the plane of their back? Is it low? Is it high? Is it still? Is it wagging? If it's wagging, what kind of wagging? Is it like a soft little wave? Is it really super fast? Is it really stiff and just the tip is doing a little rattlesnake kind of quiver? And understand that every dog is going to be a little bit different here, right? Your dog may do certain things that another dog doesn't do. And we're actually going to see that a little bit in my guy, what he does in certain situations. So again, this is why videoing is so important. So we're able to figure out, what does my dog do in certain situations. We also want to look at their feet. You're like, oh, their feet too? Yes, their feet are important. What are they actually doing with their feet when they're actually tackling the search? Are their feet moving? And if their feet are moving, how are they moving? Is it in the straight plane of direction that they were going in? Or does it seem like their feet are going in every which direction? Are they doing stutter steps where they look like they were about to take a step? They're like, oh, wait, I don't know, like kind of thing. Or are they actually planting their feet? Are they pivoting their whole body around to maybe align themselves somewhere? These are really important things for us to keep in mind that may give us a lot of information about what the dog is actually doing. And then just honestly, their overall movement. If the dog is working a space, let's say they're working an interior room, and they're basically working along a wall, and suddenly they peel off of that and make like a 90-degree turn to change direction to check out another space. Why are they doing that? What would be the purpose of the dog doing that? Are they completely changing direction? Are they getting stuck in a vortex where they're only going clockwise? They're only going counterclockwise? Do you notice maybe they get stuck in one direction other than the other? Are they only going in one pace, or are they changing their pace? Maybe they're coming in, they're like, okay, and then suddenly they kick it into high gear and then they get really, really slow. Or is it just consistent all the way across the board? Again, you want to evaluate this for your dog so you're able to figure out, what does all of this mean? And how can I use this when I'm actually trying to figure out what it is I'm looking at? And also, is the dog looking at you, right? When we're doing training, in my honest opinion, most of the time we should be doing known hides. Blind hides absolutely have a place. But I think doing known hides, we can do a lot with our training. But with that comes along some things we have to keep in mind, right? If I know where the hide is, there's a really good chance that I'm going to do things even subconsciously that I'm going to be like tipping off to the dog, like, it's over there. And we don't want to do that consistently in our training, because then our dog would be like, you going to tell me where the hide is? Like, that wouldn't be helpful. But our dogs do communicate to us all the time, but we want to figure out, why are they communicating to us and what kind of communication are they doing? If they look to us, are they asking a question? And if they are asking a question, why are they asking a question? Are they asking a question because they're like, I don't have any access to odor. What are we doing in here? Or are they saying, I don't know how to do this? Or are they saying, I can't do this, right? This is scary. This is hard. This is challenging. Fill in the blank. Or are they cueing off of something that we did? Hey, you moved. You did something weird. Are you talking to me? Did you want me to stop hunting and talk to you? So again, reviewing our videos is so important. So be able to tell what all that stuff means. So again, this is not exhaustive by any stretch. These are just some of the things that you want to try to keep track of, video, and then watch it back. And then try to ask yourself these questions. What is my dog doing? And then what are they doing in relation to the actual search? If you know where the hide is, maybe able to make some really good assumptions about what all this may mean. So now we're going to be looking at some videos. So again, this is my little guy, Ozzy, and he's going to be tackling interior searches and exterior searches for the videos I'm sharing today. Again, he's hunting for either food or toys, and he's been doing this for, about a year and a couple of months now, and he really likes the game. So what we're first going to do is we're going to watch a video, and then I'm going to pause and ask you guys, what do you think? And then we're going to watch it again. I'm going to give you some of my insights. So we're going to watch this very first video. So what do you guys think? You're like, oh my God, I don't know what you want me to say. From that video, from a dog that you may have never seen before, working a space you've never seen before, what do you think he was actually working inside that space? You can just write in the comments what type of hide maybe that he was working, if he was working a hide, and maybe where that hide was. You can just write anything you like inside of the comments. I'll give you guys a second to do that. And while you are writing those comments, I'm just going to do a little bit of talking just to fill the space. So elevated, thank you so much, Melissa. Good observation. And if you do think that's an elevated hide, you just guys want to put in why you think it may be an elevated hide. Some of the things that to keep in mind as far as that space is that we can think about what the space is actually composed of, right? So we have an interior space as my living room. He was staged inside of a different area. He had to be released in. We have all these different surfaces as far as our different flooring, the walls. We can see that it's during the day. All these things are something that we would want to keep in mind. Oh, you guys are doing great. We have elevated. We have Jen is thinking over the back of the couch. And then Cindy, left wall threshold high. Perfect job, guys. All right, so now we're going to watch the video again. And I'm going to give you some of my commentary to show you what I'm seeing. Heads up, periodic lift his head. Perfect. You guys are doing great. All right, so I ask him to find it. He comes on in. So we can see he comes in and he's kind of looking around. His mouth is open. He does a lip lick there. He's looking around. He's sniffing. He gets himself into this corner, which is great. And he comes back around. Another lip lick. He checks this little couch. He checks this. Another lip lick. He looks at me for a second. Another lip lick. He's going all around. He's like, interesting. So you see he's checking all these different planes. He's coming up. He's coming down. He's coming up. He's coming down. He checks the top of this thing. And then he does this. So you're like, wait a minute, where'd he go? Well, funny story. This is actually a blank search. There's nothing in here. So how do I know this, right? How would I know that this is actually a blank search for my dog? It's going to be abundantly clear for you in a second. But basically, he actually checks in with me multiple times. He looks at me, which he doesn't typically do. He also is not really zeroing in on anything. He's checking a bunch of places that he knows that hides may have been before, right? He checks inside of the actual corner. He checks along. He does a really nice job of checking the whole front of that entertainment center. I love the fact that he's checking different planes. He's looking down the ground. He's looking at head height. He's looking above head height. He's getting on top of the couch to try to see if something could be elevated. He's doing actually a lot of great work, but he's not zeroing in on anything. He's not keying it up to another level, if that makes any sense. He's not suddenly engaging his feet more. He's not increasing his pace. There's no increased intensity. It's all kind of the same. And it's, again, for him, he's actually checking in with me quite a bit. It's not obvious by any stretch. But a lot of that lip licking, he's like, maybe my nose just isn't wet enough. Right? Where is everything, right? So this is a really important thing that I hope you guys can see, that running blank searches with your dogs is actually a really good thing to do. It could be scary at first because you're like, oh God, my dog doesn't have anything to find. But he was only in there for 30 seconds and he took himself out of the search area, jumping over the top of the couch, which I don't recommend. But he's a terrier and terriers will do what terriers do. And the reason why he did that is he's like, well, there's nothing in here. There must be something somewhere else, which is another good thing for me to know that our training has been doing well because he wants to find more. He didn't just give up and be like, there's nothing in here. I'm just going to go like lick my butt. He wanted to go find more hides that aren't there. There's nothing set. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is that leveraging blank searches could actually be really helpful for you. And it can give you a good comparison of, okay, I'm running my dog. This is a blank space. I know there's nothing in here. There's not even a chance for something to be in here. What do they look like and what do they do? Don't keep them in there forever. 30 seconds is more than enough, especially if your dog has never done this before. And then once you're ending it, you say, what a nice try. Put them back up inside their staging area. I like to give them a cookie personally. There's lots of debate about that. But personally, I like to give them a cookie when they go back inside their staging area. It's not their same party I do, typically speaking. And then I'm going to set up another search where they actually find odor. So you guys are doing really great. And like, aha, it is blank. And then I love this. I was going to say that it looks blank, but I chickened out because everyone said elevated. And even paced throughout, no real changes of behavior. And again, I'm not trying to like call you out, Tony, but this is perfect because it shows us just how easy it is for us to second guess ourselves, right? And one of the things I really love about Michael McManus's webinar I was talking about is that he talks about that very thing, that we are actually really good at reading our dogs. That if our dog was out in the backyard, right, and they're just putting around doing their own thing, and all of a sudden they did all these different things and they suddenly were looking somewhere and acting a certain way, we are going to follow what they were doing and make immediate assumptions of the dog must be chasing a chipmunk, or they must be interested in a squirrel, or maybe they heard something. It's almost natural how we're able to read our dogs, but as soon as we put it inside of scent work, all of that seems to go away for some reason. And we're like, oh, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, no, you do. Just trust yourself. It's okay. But really good job. And then Jen also pointed out, blank was my first choice, but I chickened out by saying it. Exactly. Trust your dog and trust your gut, right? Okay, so we're going to look at some more videos. How fun is this, right? Fun. So we're going to look at another video of him doing a search. Find it. All right, so what do you think there? You're like, oh my God, that was so short. Barely saw anything. I hope you can see there's a difference between the two, right? So there is absolutely a hide here. And this was done immediately after the blank search. So where roughly do you think that hide is and what type of hide? Yeah, I'm glad you guys are having fun. So again, you guys can just write in the comments where you may think that hide may be located and the type of hide. And again, I don't want anyone to feel look, I am not envious of any of you. I'm on this side. I know the answers to these questions, but you're like, oh, I don't know what to say. We're not going to shame you. We don't bite. It's fine. Feel free to guess. So there, he's definitely more animated in this one. Absolutely. Jody thinks it's a threshold hide. Joanne thinks it's a low threshold hide. Okay, perfect. And as you guys are answering this, I know it's really hard to type all this out, but try to think of why you may think that. The head flip. Okay, perfect. All right, so a lot of threshold hides. Okay, perfect. And we also think that's low. So we don't think it's elevated. We think it's fairly low. And we now have a corner of the TV. Left side by the TV stand, or is it wrapping around the corner to the threshold? See, I love this, guys. Perfect. Corner of the cabinet, a bit of bracketing. Ooh, you guys are really getting close here. All right, let's see how he looks. Find it. So right there we have, he has absolutely picked up on odor. He's like, oh my God. Sourcing and bam. Yeah. Good boy. So it was right there it was a little piece of food inside the handle of that actual entertainment center. So I hope you guys can see the dramatic shift in him, right? Where before he came in and he was basically, it was even keel the whole time for that blank search. Nothing really changed. There was no changes of behavior, no increased amount of intensity. He was looking for stuff. He was clearly searching, but he wasn't getting anything. For this, it was almost instantaneous. Like, oh my God, there's odor now. And for him, he's finding his treat. So, and he's a food hound and a half. So he's like, oh my God, I have to get my cookie. So what's also really great about this is you can see what I was talking about before with the feet, is how crazy his feet got when he got past this first door of the entertainment center. So let me see if I can come back a little bit. So when he comes in here, we have recognition of odor. We see some swirling. And then right there, like his feet just can't go fast enough, right? And then he's sourcing and he finds this. What a good boy. And I typically reward at source, but I was trying to film for this, so I'm rewarding away from source. But dramatic shift, right? So different. Makes it so clear for us to see what we're actually looking at. And again, this is why these blank searches can be so important. They can be really helpful for us to see what's actually going on. But you can also see how much he was like, oh my God, there's a cookie now. And he goes running out there to go find it. They are really, really powerful. Natalie McManus did a really fantastic webinar for us talking all about how you can use blank searches in your training. I highly recommend that you check that out as well. It's very, very good. But I hope that you guys can see the difference between the two, right? And that we can tell that he was really picking up on odor. And that's why I love that you guys are thinking maybe it was a threshold hide, right? Because he is absolutely picking up odor there. And you can kind of already see what's happening airflow-wise inside this space. And that's why I wanted to do just videos with him and just videos inside this interior. And then we're going to do some videos inside the exterior as well. So you have some consistency. And that's going to actually help you too when you're doing your training, is you will figure out certain things that work inside certain spaces. That's not to say that you shouldn't be doing field trip searches. You should, absolutely. But we want to make certain that we can really get a feeling for what may be happening. And there's some other tools you may be able to use to help that along the way. So let's say if you were doing a field trip search, you can use something like a cirrus in order to basically puff some smoke. You can see where it's traveling. Is it rising? Is it falling? Where is it going? All that good jazz. But I think it's really helpful to do this kind of comparison. So maybe with your own dog, design something like this. Have a space, have it be blank first. Run them in that for maybe 30 seconds. Then do another search where you know that they're going to be able to find this hide. We're not making a ridiculously challenging hide for them, right? And video both and compare. See what it looks like. So really great. Head was down and he zipped his head around on the right of the TV stand. Absolutely. He's so fast. Can we do slow-mo? He is really fast. I can't do slow-mo in here, but what I'll do is I'll definitely make certain that I'm going to take some of these videos out. I'm going to post them on the different platforms as well, and I'll do some slow-mo too. But I can't do slow-mo in here, unfortunately. But it's a good thing for me to keep in mind. You guys are doing great. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to keep on keeping on. So we're going to take a look at our next video. Find it. So I'm trying to find him here. So what do you think in that one? You're like, oh God, now I have no idea. That kind of looked like the blank search and it kind of looked like the second search. What am I looking at? Don't be afraid. Again, we're all friends here. So just what do you think? Was he working a hide? If he was, what type of hide? And maybe where that hide was. You could just write those inside the comments. Again, it is a good thing for us to be able to stay humble. As soon as we start figuring stuff out, we're like, oh God, I don't know anything. But don't be stressed. Don't worry. Absolutely. Just whatever you guys think, you just write those inside those comments because you guys are doing great with this. I have no idea. Perfect. That's okay to have no idea. Linda says blank. Okay. And I just want to make certain that you guys are, this is not a, I think it's helpful for us to get stressed out a little bit, be like, I don't know. And then just to admit that we don't know. There's lots of times I have no idea. And it's good. I think it's freeing to say when you don't know. And then you can just be like, okay, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure out what it is. And then we have, he was working a hide. The window and the door was attracting the odor. Okay. And then Tony said, I'd say blank again. Okay. Maggie thinks blank. Perfect. All right. So we're going to give this one a search because now people are like really gun shy. Like, oh God, I don't know. I don't want to be wrong. And this is a really good exercise, I think, for you guys to do. Maybe if you have videos that you're taking and maybe you have friends that you do searches with, maybe do something like this, right? Where you have a video of your search and you set it up, you're videoing your dog, and maybe you can share it inside of a Facebook group and you just pause before the dog does find the hide, before you end the search, whatever the case may be, and then just talk about it. What do you guys think? And you guys can kind of alternate through. I think if we can desensitize ourselves to how painful it can be to be wrong, that we can then open ourselves up to see a little bit more and know that you guys have no relationship with this dog. This is only the third time that you've seen him ever in this space. There's no reason for you to get this right out of the gate. And then Alicia was saying he was checking multiple planes, but I'm not sure. You know what? Being not sure is perfect. Oh, poop. That was bad. Hang on. All right, that was our, don't get dizzy. All right, whee. Sorry about that, guys. Come on. You can do it. You were doing so well. All right. Press the right button. So now we're basically going to watch the whole thing again. So listen, hear that cuffing, the chuffing rather. That's a good indication that there's a hide, that there's actually odor that he's working. See how the head is going back and forth? There you have some bracketing where he's actually figuring out where the edges are. He has figured out from the blank search that he can just go over the top of the couch because he wants to stress me out. I will tell you that he's used to working the whole house to work any hide. So he's very accustomed to going and working very large to work in. And the airflow inside this space is really funky. It is bizarre. There isn't any HVAC on, which is a good thing to keep in mind. And then, whoa, wait a minute. Bam. Good job, boy. So what do we have going on here? There are so many things happening in this space. It could be affecting our airflow. So right where I'm trying to show with this terrible graphic is that there's a bunch of different things that could be affecting where air is going. So we have our front door, we have our windows. That absolutely could be either sucking in or blowing in air. We have our fireplace over to the right-hand side, and that could be sucking or blowing air. Typically, air will be going up inside of our fireplace. We have our intake vent, which is not on. The HVAC was not on, but it's still an important thing to keep in mind. And then right behind me where I'm filming, there's a hallway that goes down, and typically there are windows open because there's a bathroom down there. And then behind me, we have our kitchen with a whole bunch of windows, and we don't know how secure those windows are, so there's probably airflow there as well. Basically what this means is that there's a lot of airflow happening inside of this space. And when the HVAC isn't on, typically speaking, he needs to work towards the kitchen or down this hallway in order to figure out where stuff is. If he's coming from the bedroom, which is where he's actually being released from, if he's being released from the kitchen, he can have a much easier time finding his hides. Because I think, and this is just me guessing, is that that's the airflow, the direction. So this is another thing for us to keep in mind is what are the factors that the dog has to deal with? What's happening with the airflow? Are we starting them upwind? Are we starting them downwind? And then how is the odor going to be interacting in the space? I'm just trying to show here that obviously in this little entry area, we have a tile floor. All these little grout areas are channeling opportunities for our odor. So this is a ground hide and it's in a corner. So I have two puzzles here. It's a piece of food that's right in the corner of this elevated little, I don't know why they have this section elevated, but they do. Little step up. And I will tell you that I've worked this exact positioning of this hide. Oh my God. I think I do it at least 4 or 5 times a month. It's hard. Like this placement is just challenging. And I cannot tell you exactly why. My guess is that a lot of the odor, depending again if I have HVAC on or not, may actually go underneath all this raised laminate floor area. So he may not actually have availability to odor at all. So it really depends on what's on. The HVAC was not on in this instance. But I think it's helpful for us to see that a lot of people are like, well, it must be blank because he jumped over the couch, right? And that's what I'm trying to show you guys, that we don't want to latch onto those kinds of just instances, right? We want to take the whole picture as a whole of what it is that we're looking at so that it can make sense. And that's why I think working more known hides in our training and filming it and reviewing it back and making certain that we're not just guessing or that we're not making assumptions about stuff that actually was just incidental. For him, he literally was just saying, I need to broaden my space so I can actually figure out what's going on here. So I'm going to jump over the couch because typically he doesn't have these gates in the way. I was trying to use the gates to make my life easier for filming because as you can see, he's very fast. And if he's buzzing around everywhere in all the rooms, I can't capture for video. And he's like, I don't care about your video. I need to figure out where this odor is. So I hope that all makes sense. And it's completely understandable. You guys are like, maybe it's blank. And that's okay, right? That's good. That means that you were observing what was in the blank search. Now you're trying to apply that here. But then we want to put everything together. So I hope that makes sense. And then I love this as well. The fear of being wrong is so real. The biggest hurdle we overcame in our Nosework 1 journey. And I absolutely love that you're pointing this out because it is a thing, right? Particularly when we're talking about competition, because now, my God, we're adding in the fact that I'm spending money and all this stuff is going on and I may not title and I'm in there with maybe people who know me and it's just all gross, right? But we have to recognize that it's not the end of the world, right? Our dogs are just happy to be there. Hopefully they're happy to be there and they just want to play the game with us. And when we do figure out what they're saying, there is such joy that the dog experiences because if we, just to go on a little bit of a soapbox, if we think about this for a second, our dogs are constantly begging us to understand them, right? Because they're a little furry alien. And they try to do human stuff as much as they can. They will mimic us. They'll do all kinds of things to try to meet us halfway. And a lot of times, and it's not on purpose, but we're asking them to do all the heavy lifting. If there are those glimmers where we actually can recognize what they're saying to us, the joy that that dog emits. I'm like, oh, you heard me. Oh, okay, you aren't hearing me anymore, but you heard me for a second. Right? That must be so... It just must be such a wonderful thing to be heard, right? To be understood. And that's what I love about scent work, is it's one of the, in my opinion, best gateways to do that. And then that bleeds over to everything. Because if you can read your dog in these different situations, you may be able to read them in your day-to-day life. Where it may have been, oh my God, why is my dog doing X, Y, or Z? But then you may actually say, oh, my dog is actually telling me about 1, 2, or 3 or something. So that's what's so wonderful about scent work. But yes, being wrong can absolutely be a thing. So we're going to take a look at some more videos. Find it. Trying to keep up with the terrier is not easy. So we're starting him in now the kitchen. And I don't know if you guys can hear, but now the HVAC is on. And this is a different day. I apologize for the videoing. Doing my best. How can you not smile at this? Just having the time of his life. So what do you guys think there? Is he actually finding a hide? Is there a hide to find? Is this another blank search? Maybe we're doing a blank search with HVAC on. What do you guys think? And again, feel free. I know that now you guys are really gonna share like, oh, I don't know. It's okay. Again, we are all friends here. Don't worry. And even if you're quote unquote wrong, who cares? It's a wonderful learning opportunity. So Cindy thinks that it's blank. Okay. And thank you very much for playing. Again, I do this where, just as an aside, I'm going to give you guys a second. I am definitely the kind of student where if I go to a class, I want to be an auditor. I'm like, don't call on me. Don't ask me questions. Just let me sit here and let me learn and watch you. I just want to be a lurker. Just leave me alone. And I will then percolate that information, go home and figure it out. So I completely understand. Like, I'm not answering you. I'm not putting myself out there because I get it. Because I'm pretty much the same. But it is it's a wonderful way of learning, and it can really stretch you. And I have no self-esteem, in case that wasn't obvious. I think very poorly of myself all the time. And that's why I wouldn't want to put myself out there, right? So, oh God, they're going to hate me, or someone's going to be angry at me, or what. It's so stupid. It's like, no, we're fine. No one's going to be mad at you. It's okay. So yes, go auditors. And then I don't mind being wrong. I'm going with blank again. Perfect. Okay, I'll play. I have no idea. I love these answers. And yeah, I don't know. And again, there's honestly, I think what's important about this is that there's no real good reason for you to know. Honestly, unless you have watched hundreds and thousands of dogs, right? You have no background with this guy. You have been shown purposefully, for a reason, certain videos of him doing certain things, right? So now you are laser focused on very certain things. And your brain is trying to find the pattern. It's desperately trying to find the pattern so that you can answer the question. There's no reason for you to know. But that's why I think it's really helpful for you guys to do these setups with your own dogs so that you be able to figure this out. And then if you have multiple dogs, do them with each. And you may find, wow, you know, Fido does this and Spot does this other thing and Harley does this other random thing. Who knew? And that will really help broaden your repertoire. And then Alyssa said, I think I heard a breathing change, so I think there's a high, but I don't know where. Okay, perfect. All right, let's find out. We're going to see it. We're going to watch the rest of this video. So we're not watching from the beginning. We're just starting off where we paused. He is just a man on a mission. So we can see all the plane changes. See how his head comes down. His head goes level with his plane of his back, and his head goes up. He is checking all these various planes. And again, the important thing to keep in mind is that the HVAC is on. So that's going to be doing all kinds of things, particularly in this space, with what odor and air is going to be doing. You can see where he likes to go. He wants to cover a perimeter. He's a mini Doberman. And right there. See that change? See our bracket? Bigger, smaller, 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 pinning it down, back and forth, zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. And bam. It was an inaccessible hide. In a part of the space that you didn't even really see him work in. So there's no reason for you to think that there was actually a hide in that space. But the important thing to keep in mind is two things. One, HVAC is on. And you may have said, well, he was spending an awful lot of time down in that bedroom. And there's a real good reason for that. For whatever reason, in this rental that I'm living in, when there are hides set anywhere in the space and the HVAC is on, it could be heat, it could be air conditioning. All the odor gets dumped in that room. It gets dumped in the corner right next to my bed. So without fail, he will work the whole space and then he will work inside that room for a bit and try to figure out, okay, there's a ton of odor in here, but there's no hide. So it's a good learning opportunity for him to see basically a bunch of pooling, trapping odor, and there's nothing productive there. The other thing to keep in mind is that this was indeed an inaccessible hide. He had to get really darn, far down that hallway to even get a whiff of the odor that was really productive, that he'd be able to work. And then they could really see that lovely bracketing, that he kept getting that bracket smaller. So he was really trying to get inside that cabinet. And for him, what I'm doing is I'm then providing him access. So again, for this instance, he was finding food. So then I just opened that cabinet and he was able to self-reward. And if I didn't open that cabinet, he probably would have tried to get inside the cabinet himself, which we don't want. I don't want to promote destruction. But I hope you guys can see that, yes, there in that beginning sequence, there was odor recognition there. There was definitely, he was hunting. It wasn't the same as a blank, but he was having a really hard time figuring out. He's like, there's odor kind of everywhere. There's a lot of odor being dumped in that bedroom. There's some odor coming out into the rest of the living room area. There's some of it does collect over in that other corner by the recliner, because there's an air purifier there. So that actually causes a whole other issue. But then once he got down to that hallway, he was actually able to figure out this is where source is in this general area. It's at least down this hallway, right? It's in this area. It's either in that bedroom that's right next to it, or it's in this cabinet, or maybe it's inside that bathroom with the door that's closed. So really fun stuff. Inaccessible hides are something that people find really, really cool. I would advise you don't do them to death because, again, we want to really promote source, and particularly if you're working with target odor hides like your birch, your anise, your clove. And if you're not providing access, we could accidentally start changing the picture for what the game is for the dog, that now we're promoting fringing, which we don't want. So I would do this sparingly. Just like with anything that's really super sexy and snazzy, do it sparingly. But I like to promote that they then are allowed access to that hide and being able to see the difference of what the dog looks like when a hide is accessible, maybe when it's deep accessible. So as an example, if I had a hide at the far back of that entertainment center, what would that look like? As opposed to inside that cabinet where it was closed. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying this. All right, we're going to take a look at some more videos. I'm going to try to press the right button. I have to remember how I edited this. Yes, now we're working outside. So same thing. What do you guys see? And what do you think? So what kind of hide do you think he's working there? So now we're working outside. You can see it's a sunny day. We live in Southern California, so it's just nice all the time. But I think on this day, I think it was like 60 something. And he, we're working inside of our backyard, so he's off leash. What do you think he's doing? Is he working a hide? If he is working a hide, what type of hide? So elevated hide, corner hide, ground hide, suspended hide, inaccessible hide. What do you think? And you can just put those inside the comments. And we think suspended on the tree. Okay, perfect. I love that you guys are participating. Thank you so much. And yes, he is a very determined little guy. High hide in the tree. Okay, perfect. Elevated on the fence. Perfect. Elevated on the fence. Elevated. And elevated, chuffing at the tree, head turn when he was... Okay, we're going to show this one. There's so much goodness. Elevated, chuffing at the tree, head turn when he was on the right of the tree, moved to the left, came back to the trunk of the tree. I would tend towards suspended. Okay, perfect. I'm loving the detail. All right, let's see. So we're starting over. But I love what you guys are hearing, that you're hearing him. And you're watching this, so clearly looking up, mouth open, mouth closed. We see the bracket, right? So he's basically figured out where the edges are. Now also, think sun and shade. So in sun, air rises, shade, air falls. Bracket, bracket, bracket. And bam. Yeah, that's a man. Well done, little guy. Wow, good job. You're like, darn it. So why was that happening? So we can see that part of that area is in the sun and part of that area is in the shade. In the sun, your air is going to be warmer, so it's going to rise and it's going to disperse. It's basically going to expand. And then you have that fence effect. So it's flowing up the fence. So it's inside the bush. And he's using the actual fence as a way to kind of bracket that actual, again, this is all a guess on my part from what I'm seeing, but he's using that fence as a way to bracket where the actual odor molecules are slamming up into that fence and flowing up into the tree. Now he knows also that we do a bunch of elevated hides. We had been doing a bunch of elevated hides for these videos because elevated hides are fun. So I am also trying to work on his expectations that not everything is elevated. Sometimes things are on the ground, right? And also, vegetation is interesting because it likes to hold on to odor. And the way that those bushes work, every time I put a hide inside of one of those bushes, the odor goes up. I can't explain it. I don't understand it. I can only tell you what I see. So it makes sense, all those things. The other thing that's really interesting, it's hard to see in this video, but when you're watching the recording, watch it back if you can. And it'll be posted in these various places where you can actually do slow-mo for the recording. His tail really wags really fast because in this instance, he's finding a toy. When he's hunting for food, his tail doesn't wag. When he's hunting for a toy, that prey drive gets really high. So he will actually freeze for a second. He will wag, 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 and then he pounces like a little fox. It's just what he does. So those are other things you want to keep in mind for your own dogs. Like, are there differences that they do depending on maybe what they're hunting for, or maybe even the type of hide, the type of search? Our dogs are all individuals. They're more than welcome to have different opinions on how they do things. So really fun. Good job, guys. And again, it makes perfect sense. I loved all the observations that you had. Very, very good. And I would completely agree with you. And that's why, again, I think you're able to see now that I'm only showing you a portion of the video. And your observations are really good for that portion. And then we have to put the whole picture together. So we're going to keep on keeping on. So again, huge sun and shade. We're looking up, we're looking up. And then we're bracketing, looking up, going back and forth. And there, see that little tail? And bang! What a good boy. Nice job, little guy. So the reason why I wanted to show that one right after we just showed the other bush hide is that for some reason, these hides act very similarly. And it could be what his understanding is as far as what he's doing as far as tackling these odor puzzles. But I've been doing this with him for a year. And every single time that I place a hide in those locations with similar conditions, right? Those areas are in the sun or there's a good mixture of sun and shade. That's what he does. He goes up first and then he will come down and actually to figure it out. But I also think it's really helpful for us to keep in mind that what we do in our training will shape what our dogs think and what they understand the whole point is. And what I mean by that is many of us, when we start introducing elevation, find it really, really, really fun and sexy. So then we do it a lot. And then our dogs think, oh, all the hides are always going to be high, which isn't true. So we want to be really balanced with what we're doing with our training. So in your own training sessions, I would recommend that if you do an elevated hide, maybe then follow it up with a ground hide to really help the dog understand the difference. And also understand what I mean about ground hide is it may still be at head height for the dog or just slightly below. A hide that's truly on the ground can actually be really, really, really challenging because there's all kinds of different issues why that could be. So you may want to spend actually a lot of time just doing hides that are on the actual ground. Not buried, just on the ground. They could be really hard. But that may be something that you would want to do specifically in your training. As an example, my Doberman Valor, who was amazing, he was excellent with elevation. Elevation was his strength. We had to work for months on ground hides because it just blew his mind. He just couldn't figure it out. But once he did, he was very balanced. But then his elevated hide skills started to come down a little bit. So I had to work on those again. And that's really something to keep in mind is that skills are very fluid. And a lot of these skills live, I think, on a spectrum where they live on the same type of seesaw. So ground hides and elevated hides, I think, kind of live on the same spectrum where if we do too many elevated hides, their ground hide skills go kind of a bit. And then if we do too many ground hides, then their elevated skills kind of come down. So we want to be balanced in what we're doing. I would also really encourage you guys, if you aren't already, leverage placing what I like to call environmental hides, placing hides in bushes, on the branches of bushes, on barks of trees, up inside tree branches and stuff. Make sure your dog isn't just looking for stuff because that is so easy for them to do. Let me find the chair. We want them to follow the odor. So we're going to keep looking on. You guys are doing great. You're like, oh, you're throwing so much at us. So we're doing another search. All right, so now we have a different question for you. In that video, was he hunting or was he crittering? You're like, oh, we haven't even talked about that. Now you want me to put myself out there about that? Jesus. But let's just see. What do you guys think for that very short little clip? Was he actually hunting or was he crittering? And again, don't be afraid. It's okay. You guys are doing great. Can't believe we've almost been doing this for an hour. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, I'll guess. Critters. Good job, Lori. Good job putting yourself out there. Hunting, okay? So we have crittering, we have hunting. Crittering? Now you're trying to like, you're trying to outthink me. Like, well, this is a brand new thing that she's introducing. That must mean it's something different. This is tough. Crittering? He was so bouncy. 50-50 critters. There you go. Thank you so much, Sean. And yes, Sean actually has it right, where our dogs can absolutely multitask. So we're going to watch this back. So here, he's coming along. Here he is hunting. He is absolutely hunting for odor. And then I'm not sure if you can hear it, but as he gets to this point, a hummingbird literally flies by his head. But he goes back to work. And there's a reason why I'm using this space for my search, is that there are birds that live inside this bush, and I'm actually purposely training him to stay on task because he wants to murder birds. He actually ate a whole baby bird whole. It was very traumatic. But I'm doing this on purpose. So it's this bush here where all the birds live. And then there's his actual toy.
Man, look at you. It's all the way up there. Well done, little guy. Wow.
Good boy.
Good
Nice
work,
job.
son.
So it is absolutely possible that our dogs can multitask. And this is something that blows people's minds. It gets them very, very stressed out. They're like, just find the hide. Our dogs are brilliant. They really are. And I think that we forget how much odor information is out in the world, how much stimuli, and that they can absolutely be like, oh, here's this smell, here's that smell. Oh, that was interesting. Let me go back to work. And that's basically what this video was showing, is that a little flying morsel flew by his head and he went, ooh, do I want to maybe go chase that and eat it? No, I'm going to try to find my toy instead. And this is also, I think, his 4th search in a row that we did, because why wouldn't I do 4 big searches in a row with him out of the blue? Why not, right? So the point is that if you have a dog, because one of the things we hear a lot, particularly for my fellow terrier owners, is, you know, if there are critters, all bets are off, right? To me, that is something to lean into. It's not something to shy away from. We want to identify, how can I build the value for what the dog is doing? Hunting for whatever. He's hunting for a toy inside this example. And he loves food and toys. There are times when he loves food more, and there are other times, depending on the toy, that he will love a toy more. But I had to build all that up. It's not as though when he first found out that birds lived inside that bush, that I just put hides inside the bush and he was finding his hides. That wasn't it. We worked far away from the bush first, and then we incrementally worked our way towards the bush until now hides can be inside the bush, and the birds can literally be flying out of the bush at the very same time, and he still finds his hides. So it's recognizing, what is it that your dog, what do they value? How can you make what you want them to do more valuable, and that you're not denying who they are? He is always going to be a terrier. I'm not going to stop making him be a terrier. But I can do things with my training to make playing the game with me really fun. So great job, guys. I think towards the end he was crittering the tree. Yep, perfect. All right. Let's take a look at some more videos. I know, you're like, Jesus, more videos? So what do you think he's doing here? As I'm trying to capture it and not doing a very good job. Whee! Bouncy, 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 bouncy. Fence fighting. Chasing something on the side of the fence. Yep. Absolutely. He wants to get on the other side of the fence, right? It's clear as day. As soon as we take it outside the context of scent work, we all can tell what's going on here. There's no hide there. He's not searching for anything. There are birds On the other, well, there's actually several things. There are birds and there are neighborhood cats that live on the other side of that fence that he would like very much to play with his teeth. He would love nothing more for them to just come on over and let him eat him. But see how you guys almost instantaneously like, that's not a search, right? That dog isn't searching. He's actually doing something entirely different. So it would be completely possible for me to bring him out, potentially try to do a search and have him do that and recognize we're not searching right now. So I can tell the difference. If we were to then maybe go to a field trip location, I have to myself anyway, a pretty clear picture. This is what Ozzy looks like when he's searching for his toys or his food. And this is what he looks like when he's trying to make things into food. So that's an important thing I really want to get across to you guys is that we're not going to stop having our dogs be dogs and we shouldn't be trying, but we can recognize the difference between the two. You guys are doing great. We just have a couple more. You're such troopers. So here we have another video. He loves to bounce, in case it wasn't obvious. He thinks bouncing is great fun. So what do you guys think there? Is he hunting for something? And if he is, like something that I actually put out, where do you think that hide is? You're like, oh my God, lady. I just finally start figuring this out. And then you throw another thing at me. I don't know. And so for the other video that we were just watching, there isn't another dog over there. He actually is totally fine with other dogs. He doesn't care about them. But there are cats and there are birds that really, really, really antagonize him. So we have for this video, we have it's high. We have it elevated, suspended on the gazebo from Cindy. Is he potentially chasing something? Good job, guys. I love that you guys are still playing. All right, well, let's watch the video and let's find out. High in the cover patio, okay? We're just going to watch the whole thing again so we can see bounce, bounce, bounce. So here it would be really easy to be like, oh, but then he disengages. See how he goes around behind the actual bush here? I'm not doing a good job of capturing him because my videoing is terrible. So see how he's not staying in any one spot? See how his head is going side to side even now as he's bouncing? It's not staying straight. So he's actually, with the bouncing, he's trying to become higher. So then he comes in here. So we see this is an alcove. So we're going to have some swirling. We're going to have some collection of air and odor here. He's actually doing a lot of bouncing here. Then we also have this whole structure here as far as part of the house and the grill and everything else, where odor could be slamming up against it. So he's still seeking height. See how he pauses here for a second? Does a little blowout. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Look at me for a second. And then, oh, there it is.
Oh,
good boy. Nice job for yourself, son. So what's the point of that, right? He's like, oh my God, that's such a tiny little dog. That thing is way above my head. It's promoting try. And does it mean that you should be doing that all the time with your dogs? No. And there's lots of different ways that you could be promoting try. You could be doing mazes and other types of setups where you are promoting the dog to just dig in a little bit deeper. Was this the very first time I ever did something like this? Nope. We've been building up his desire to do the game, again, for a year plus. But the key here is when we're trying to read what the dog is doing, is recognizing that he hadn't made a decision point at any point in that video. He was literally trying to get information. If he could have sprouted wings, he would have, and he probably would have buzzed around that whole area trying to figure out where exactly this was. but we can tell where odor is traveling to. And I know from doing lots of searches inside the space that a lot of odor will collect and will kind of swirl inside that alcove area. That side of the house where the grill is collects a lot of odor as well. So he typically will get quite a bit of information there. So another thing for you to think about for your training is how can I design some exercises to promote more try, to promote my dog to dig in a little bit deeper, to do the searches, to love the work. It's not so much about, yes, we want them to find the hides, but it's the desire to seek. That's what we're really trying to build. And be really generous with your rewards. Be creative with your rewards. Sue Sternberg, again, her latest webinar for us was brilliant as far as talking about these types of things, of thinking about how we're rewarding, the types of rewards. Make this fun, really be variable and make sure the dog really enjoys it. So I think we have one more video. You guys are doing great. Oh, thank you. He's adorable. I think so. So off he goes. This is how I normally stage him. I normally stage him inside my kitchen. And then I release him, and then he just does all this stuff. It's impossible to try to catch up to. But you can see he has no issue working away from me. He's not asking questions. There's lots of things that I can work on with my handling that, quite honestly, that's not the point of this. I'm just trying to capture it for the video. But I love the fact that he is confidently going into the space and searching. And he loves what he does. Those are the big things for me. So as you can see, we've done a bunch of elevated hides so far. So it makes perfect sense that he's looking up. All these videos were done on the same day in the same session, because why wouldn't they be? I don't recommend doing that. A good little boy. So here he is still sniffing. He's not actually looking at me. And again, this is a tiny terrier. This is a pretty big space. So you can see that he was actually finding hides, right? That there was a thing for him to find. Where or what type of hide do you think that that was, based upon all the things that I was mentioning and all the things that we've watched so far? Was it a corner hide? Was it a ground hide? Was it another elevated hide? Was it a suspended hide? Where roughly do you think that it was? And you're like, my brain is mush, I don't know. And that's okay. It's not a problem at all. You guys have been troopers. Okay, so Cindy thinks that it's nose height. Okay, perfect. Now everyone's really super gun shy. They're like, I don't know. It kind of looks like everything. Perfect. All right, so we're just going to finish watching this video. Gonna watch the whole video again. Just want you to see my dog more. Head level somewhere in the middle-ish. Okay. So we can see he loves to drive into the back part of this area. That is something that I am working on to make certain that he doesn't feel like he has to do that all the time. And one of the ways you can do that is by having a lot of threshold hides. Let the hides dictate to the dog what's productive, so that blowing into a space may not be the best idea all the time. He is actually very good with threshold hides, but it's just what he loves to do. He loves to run that corner and come down here. It's just one of his favorite things. Now for me, if I was watching this and I didn't know what was going on, there's a lot of interplay between sun and shade here, right? So the thing to keep in mind is that because the air is going to be rising and expanding in the sunny area, that means that the shady air is actually traveling to the sunny area. So that may be dragging odor with it as well. So that may also be a thing to keep in mind. That there may be a fair amount of air movement, even if I can't tell. But here we actually have odor recognition. We have some bracketing. We have that wag. You have that attempt. And, we have our foot. And this is where I wanted to include this because, again, I'm so, in this instance, so enamored with getting the video that I'm not being a good trainer. He told me, in no uncertain terms, I found it, it's here. It's behind, it's basically sandwiched between the two climbs. Instead of me honoring that, I waited. And then I got the foot. We don't want the foot. The foot is bad. I don't want to promote the foot. He's never pawed anything in the year plus that we've been doing this. I don't want to start that now. And you can tell that he was trying to get in there and he knew that he couldn't. So he paused for a second, and that should have been enough for me to be like, what a good boy, and then grant him access. So the reason why I wanted to include this, not only to so that we can try to read the dogs, but to keep in mind, what are we doing, right? Why are we waiting for more? And we want to make certain that we're clear of what that may mean to the dog. That I don't want him to think, well, she didn't listen to me when I was very clear. I mean, I paused for Pete's sake, right? I paused and I stared at this. It's here. Like, it couldn't be any clearer. To him, it's like a giant neon sign. And I just went, what? It's like, here, it's in here. I can't get in there. Open this. So we would want to be really careful with that. So the other thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing your own videos is really try to look at, what am I doing and what are my expectations and what is my dog perceiving that to be? What is how are they perceiving all of that? What is their takeaway? What type of information are they taking from that? Do they think they have to do more? Do they think the game is I scratch the bejesus out of the hide and that's how I get a cookie? Because that would be bad. We wouldn't want that. And oftentimes it's because there's a disconnect between how we are responding to the dog when they find their hides. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this today. That was all that I had for us today. That was a whole lot. But we are going to be scheduling these at least once a month. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do more, but I wanted to see what the response was. You guys were amazing. We had a whole bunch of people watching. But if you have any questions as far as maybe you're like, I would like some more like this, or I would like some more resources specific about this, post those inside the comments. Again, we want to make certain that we're offering what you guys need through Setwork University. So again, we're going to be doing some more live streams. They're going to be something additional to this or in the same vein kind of thing, talking about different topics. We'll also be interviewing some of our instructors and some outside speakers as well. But I also want to make certain that we're offering what you guys need. So if there's specific topics you guys are interested in, we can then circle back with our instructors to make that a reality for you. We have so many different online offerings that we offer through Setwork University. So those would be really good for you guys to check out as well. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I have been bothering you enough. And we just have a couple of, wow, so many comments. Thanks, came in late. Is there a replay? Yes, absolutely. So all of this is going to be recorded. It will be posted to the Setwork University Facebook page, to the Instagram page, to our YouTube channel, and then I'm actually taking the recording and manually putting it up to our Facebook group, Friends of Setwork University. So that should be up probably in the next hour or so. But all the other recordings will be automatic. There's a great exercise. So much difference watching your terrier. Oh, here, we'll just show this. So much difference. Well, let's see if it'll just hang on a second. We're going to do this, and we're going to make that. There we go. Watching your terrier versus my herding breed. So that was an eye-opener for me, and I'm hoping for a terrier in the future. Oh, good. Yes, terriers are a whole lot of fun. And this is a really good thing to keep in mind that, yes, there are absolutely breed differences. And I would definitely recommend, if you haven't already, check out that webinar that Holly Bushard did for us, The Varied Needs of Different Breeds. It is really eye-opening as far as really recognizing what the breed may dictate as far as what the dogs may do. So just as a quick aside, and I promise I'll let you guys go, is my first breed of choice was Dobermans. I love them very, very much. And with Dobermans and guarding breeds, they want to do a perimeter check. It's just what they need to do. And it may be not only to do a perimeter check for safety purposes, but that's also how they like to work the space. So having that knowledge can really help you as far as how you're designing your exercises, what your expectations are as far as running them, and those same types of things that apply to other groups of dogs too, like herding breeds. So again, I would highly, highly, highly recommend, because Holly did a fantastic job with her webinar on that. If you haven't checked that out, definitely do so, because it's great. And then we had Ellen. Thank you. Love watching the videos and examining. Love watching what the dog was doing. Perfect. That's what we like to see. Super fun to watch and analyze the videos. Slow-mo would be amazing. So for the recording, you will actually be able to have it all be slow-mo, but for future live streams, I'll make certain that I include slow-mo versions as well. And then Linda agreed. I have a GSD who is chaos in 4 feet and a Japanese Akita Inu who is very laid back. It was so fun to watch a terrier. Terriers are lots of fun. They get a lot of a bad rap. They really do, but I think they're awesome little dogs. But again, I want to thank you guys so very much. Please make certain that you're playing a sniffy game with your dogs. It is such a wonderful thing to do with them. Get them a cookie for me because I took up a whole lot of your time for them today. Thanks so much, guys. Happy training. We look forward to seeing you soon.